All right, guys. I was strongly advised by the editor to abbreviate my Final Fantasy, Fire Emblem abridged story. Just so we're clear, I'm gonna call the Black Eagles the Red Eagles. Pretty sure you can figure out why I refer to them as Red Eagles. That aside, all right, let's get into it. So, first and foremost, the game starts off as normal, but when you get to the point where you choose a house, you don't choose. You play as the Red Eagles first. And eventually you start realizing that Lady Rhea is kind of sort of cold and brutal and gives punishments that may not be deemed necessary, but you can't necessarily do anything about it. But Edelgard starts hinting at you that she can change that, but you don't know what she means. Now, eventually, throughout various months or weeks, Edelgard is secretly trying to talk to or find things within Garrick Mach to help out those who slither in the dark for when they plan a rebellion and retaliation to overthrow Garrick Mach and by extension Lady Rhea. So the main plan is to make sure that there is some type of underground passage or secret passageway for an army to come through without being noticed, either via magic or, like I said, movement through an underground or unknown location. Maybe both. And they say it's going to take at least, 9 months to get ready. So the game progresses as normal. Students deal with death and loss, and you start thinking and realizing that, man, you may think that Lady Rhea is a little bit too brutal or cruel, especially when you get to the point where the West Church of Seros wants to overthrow her, but they don't want to destroy the religion or anything of that nature. And you start learning, she doesn't like the idea of any other possible religion existing and whatnot, or belief in any other gods without a severe punishment happening. You being a mercenary and not understanding anything other than fight to survive, barely even understand the concept of gods yourself. Sothis gets a little offended from time to time, but doesn't really care. So, game still progresses normally. You recruit who you recruit. You could even get blue and gold people early if you really pay attention, like, always. However, when you go down to the tomb, Edelgard cannot be found, but it's time to go into the tomb because, shit's getting real down there. You go into the tomb, Claude and Dimitri are with you, and it's a mix of gold, blue, and red students, or it's just red students, and Claude got there first, and Dimitri got there first before their whole entire houses did. However, the bad guys block them in some way, shape, or form. An explosion goes off, or the Black Knight is keeping all the students at bay. So you gotta get rid of these guys before you can get to the Black Knight, who's stopping all the other students from coming and helping. So eventually, the whole entire cutscene with Dimitri plays out the same. When he's in the tomb, he notices it's Edelgard, tries to kill her, snaps, loses his mind, blah 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 blah. Everyone tries to calm him down, even Claude. Eventually, what ends up happening is Hubert shows up, tells you we've removed the Black Knight, we've warped him out, it's time to go, we need to get out of this whole place. Rhea decides that all of the Red Eagle people need to be incarcerated. Baila thinks that's extreme, especially since, literally, they were just helping earlier against her. But Rhea's Rhea. Rhea ain't trying to hear that shit. In fact, that actually makes more sense than what could happen in the story if you have if you have Red Eagles on your team after Edelgard is found to be a traitor. So Shamir went and did the intelligence, same as always. After Shamir does the intelligence and comes back, you know she's coming. She snuck a military force past the borders without being noticed by outer security and whatnot. So you and your whole squad got to get ready. Eventually, over time, throughout the weeks, you convince Lady Rhea that all the Red Eagle people, which are your base clap people, are good. But Rhea gives them an ultimatum. Fight with the professor and all of us together, red, blue, and gold, or die right now if you can't kill Edelgard or if you're shown to be hesitant. They all agree to do it, but they are hesitant but don't admit it. Baila says it's okay. I know you are. Now, this time, though, you get access to all the students. It's a really, really, really big map or really big fight. But the game lets you know you're no longer the leader of the Red House. You got moved over, so now you and Hanneman are using the Blue Lions. So Hanneman lets you know a little about the Blue Lions kids and shit that they can do and blah, blah, blah. Story progresses normal. The characters are scaled up and so are their weapon abilities and whatnot. So it's not like you're getting a whole new team. It's really just you got the Reds in one section of the map, Blue's in one section of the map, gold's in another. Gold's doing south protection. Since there's water on the east, I think, or northeast, the red eagles are doing the west section, and the blues are up front with Hanneman, and Manuela's watching the reds, and it just goes as normal. Now this time though, when you fall into that cave, fall into that dark crevice for 5 years, that no explanation how you got out of that, by the way. What actually happens is you land in Abyss, which is where the Ashen Wolves are. They find you, and you don't wake up after 5 years. You wake up after 4. You've got memory loss. So this is calling you and talking to you, but you can't figure out how to connect to it or talk to it. You just hear a voice at random. However, you see Judith, who you met a little bit earlier with Claude when she was visiting the school, and you decide to help her out because she reminded you of Claude and she looked familiar. She says what your name is. So even though you've had amnesia and you've been doing a few missions or a few months with the Ashen Wolves just to get resources and whatnot, staying out of trouble, because they can move freely based on the Abyss having an entrance north, south, east, and west between all the nations and Fodlan. Judith lets you know my whole force got broken up, and it was an ambush from a traitor who wanted to side with Edelgard's empire because they got promised some wealth and they wanted to screw up the entire alliance. Now, when that happens, you eventually get everyone back, and she goes and knows where she was initially. So basically her whole team got kidnapped, and you get to free some Golden Alliance people, and those Gold Alliance people, along with the Ashen Wolves, who's technically that's your house right now, team up, and they basically conquer this lord, and they temporarily use his entire manor as a base of operations, because you don't go back to Garrick Mach yet. So Leonie is there, or Leonie was saved. She lets you know she can let all the other people know in the Reagan Alliance, in the House Reagan and who associate with them, hey, while you're going back to Garrick Mach to figure out what your next move is and how to deal with the situation, I'm going to tell everyone else in this entire alliance you're back, you're alive, and see if they'll come back to Garrick Mach with me. So a month passes, no fight this time, and it's just maintenance for Garrick Mach, lectures, whatnot, old students coming back, and more chances to recruit some of the other students. That's right, recruiting doesn't stop after the 5-year time window bullshit like last time. I don't know why that was even in there. So they all come back, but now you got to worry about the Blue Lions. So last you heard, because we'll say, who was it? Cassandra is friends with Mercedes, and Cassandra knows where Mercedes is. So Cassandra sends a letter off to Mercedes, who also showed up, letting them know, hey, look, Violet is back, but didn't want to believe it. So she spread the word among Blue Lion House, or among the members once she went back. This leads to Dimitri being found, but possibly being in trouble. A note came to Garrick Mach saying, I'm coming to kill the imposter of my professor or my teacher. So what he decides to do is basically break in secret and try to get through to Garrick Mach to come kill you. However, you meet him halfway after 2 weeks, and he realizes it's the real you. He thought he was hallucinating, you were dead, all this other shit. And here's the thing though. 2 days later, everyone from the Blue Lion House shows up. Blue Lion House people decide if they're going to fight, what they want to do. You know, if you already had somebody who you recruited, they come back to your team now at this point too. See, I stagger the returners coming back. That way it's more special. And they'll also have better stats and different classes. So they help out at Garrick Mach, or you can recruit them over time. 2-3 more months pass. Basically, the first month you're dealing with the monsters, because those who slither in the dark use their secret tunnels and passages of the Abyss and the ones that they made to try to flood Garrick Mach. Because word got out to Edelgard's team that you're there, and that was their next best thing to do. Send monsters. Doesn't work. Leaks get plugged. However, someone realizes that this is an intricate tunnel system. Hanneman, we'll say Hanneman. And Manuela finds a map from one of the deceased assassins who were coming along with the monsters. And they realize they can use this entire network to sneak into Edelgard's territory unnoticed and basically use her own trick against her. So you and your whole team decide that you're going to do it at the end of the month. Dimitri want to do it that same day. after everyone just got done fighting a bunch of fucking monsters. Now, remind you, Dedal has not come back yet. Dedal is the only one still missing out of this whole group because Dedal is in Dusker because that's where Dimitri told him to go once he was supposed to have getting betrayed by his own country and beheaded and whatnot. Because just because he was associated with Dimitri, he was automatically not safe, and his people were inherently racist towards the Duskin people. So he's still out of this entire picture. Now, you got a little more time to recruit people, but you do whatever you want to do. So what happens is, Claude decides he's going to go and go take a group of people, Church of Saros and some others, and he's going to go splinter off with his group in that same month, and they're going to go talk to people within the kingdom that Dimitri used to preside over, convince them that since Byleth is here, we should team up, go after Edelgard. Don't tell them anything about Dimitri being alive, because they don't know this. They've been lying and saying he's dead. They know he's alive, the people who tried to get him killed and in power, but they don't know where he is. So they just say he's dead. So he does that, but simultaneously, you go and try to stop Dimitri, who took a horse and he left out about 3 or 4 days earlier, but no one noticed until they found a random note that accidentally had blown out of his room and was found in a grass field or some shit. We'll say by Hilda, because Hilda was trying to be lazy and get out of doing work. Because Hilda's Hilda, no matter what version of the story you tell. Now, what ends up happening next is you get to pick which mission you want to do first, but they happen simultaneously. Claude's mission is technically successful. However, it gets revealed that Dimitri is alive. Because Mercedes, remember, she's been going this whole time. She came back to go and get people. Mercedes hadn't left yet because she was still letting people know. But the thing is that Mercedes was unaware that the people who plotted against him didn't just plot against him because he was a step relative of Edelgard and they thought he was in it. They plotted against him just because they wanted to take over the whole nation. So you stop Mercedes from being executed, and it's basically a foregone conclusion. Y'all know that Dimitri's still alive, and y'all got to get out of Dodge. So y'all spend that mission running away from everybody to get back to the monastery. But right when you get there, a giant explosion goes off. And that's when, if you were playing Claude's side, you're going to switch over to, what Byleth was doing. Dimitri got captured. They weren't feeding him. He was chained up. You snuck into the underground dungeon because luckily, dungeons are meant to hold criminals and bad people in theory. So the kingdoms normally don't want there to be normal access to it. However, since you have those who slither in the dark's, tunnel map, it drops you right there. So what ends up happening is when you go over to him and you free him, Hubert shows up and you think there's about to be a fight, but he says it's okay. He goes to unlock and free Dimitri, but Dimitri had a hidden knife, or he broke a plate of food and he slashes the throat, or he just stabs Hubert in the way that he dies. But Hubert still needs to talk a little bit. So then they explain to Dimitri after they stop him, he's the one who just freed you. We didn't free you, we just got here. And he looks confused, like, why would Hubert free me? So Dimitri tells him, like, look, I needed you guys to possibly stop or go and stop in my place those who slither in the dark. Because they're doing despicable things far worse than what they did 5 years ago. And he also felt bad about getting your dad killed. He wasn't on your side, but he wanted to let it be understood that he didn't agree with everything that was happening. So he explains what they're doing and that they have a giant missile and nuke. Or a missile-like nuke thing, because they use magical terms. And they're going to use that to basically destroy Garrick Mach. But the thing is, he knows that innocent villagers and people live there. But he can't stop them or do anything against them, and neither can Edelgard. Also, they've been experimenting on Edelgard far worse than what they did Lysithea. And this is when the team finds out Lysithea is actually dying. Lysithea runs off, and the Black Knight shows up. Because when Hubert got killed, one of the guards knew he couldn't take that many people, and went and got the Black Knight. The Black Knight took every single force that was there. Edelgard's still asleep in the castle, doesn't know what's going on. She's far above it, literally. Like, her room is so far away she can't hear nothing. Now, what ends up happening is that the Black Knight knows that those Slytherin Nagark want Byleth dead. Really, really dead. So, Tomas was there with them and says, I'll solve this with our new toy. And the Black Knight says, 10 minutes. And he says, okay. So then he lets everybody know, in 10 minutes, you can run or fight, and a giant explosion will go off, just like he did in the actual game, which was fucking weird. So, you kill the Black Knight, Dimitri wakes up, and everybody books it the fuck out of there. But right as you're booking it out of there, you make too much noise. Edelgard wakes up and looks out of her room, and she sees everyone there. She sees everyone running out there like, what the fuck? So then she starts to let the guards know, sound the alarms, all this other shit. Because that guard that went and told the Black Knight, he was going to tell everybody, and the Black Knight said, no, don't. But he killed them because he wanted to go tell everybody. But right when that happens, 10 minutes is up. Boom, explosion goes off. So now what happens is, everybody was in recovery mode for about 2 or 3 days before they went back into the tunnels. You go back into the tunnels to get back to Garrick Mach, and halfway through, you meet Claude and everyone else from Church of Seros. They explain what happened on their side. You explain what happened on their side. Mercedes is now in the party. You get Mercedes. You don't have to recruit her. Mercedes is automatic. This is considered the halfway point of the story, or at least the climax, during the climax. So what's going to happen next is the teacher has to decide who is and is not strong enough to go and finish the mission to go and fight Edelgard. Because even though Edelgard knows now how we're moving back and forth, it's only a matter of time before she marshals her forces and tries to go and use these exact same routes and paths. So it's better off to try to weaken her forces now, or try to fight her now, than go back, try to regroup, and right when we regroup, they're already right behind us in that tunnel. Plus, no one really wants to fight in that tunnel because it could come down on them or something. And you take who you take, the rest go back, yada, yada, yada. Let the rest of Church of Seros and Rhea know what's going on. So, you go. Mercedes is automatically in your party because, you're just going to need a healer. You can't get no items this time. This is a hard map. You fight Edelgard. This is when Dedal shows up like he did when you first try to kill her. So you beat her in the throne room, but instead of killing her immediately, you bring her out, you get back to the monastery, and she's beheaded by Dimitri and Rhea. So after she's beheaded, you remember her body's checked, or her clothing and her items and personal effects. Turns out she had a map that looked like it was the location given to her by those Slytherin in the dark of how to get to their base or one of their operations. So everyone's like, okay, everyone's gonna go. But Byleth, knowing Rhea might overreact and there might be a trap, decides, my group is going to go first and we're just going to do recon. We're just going to survey the area. We don't know how big this base can be, or we don't know if it's an underground or area and shit like that. But when you get there, the Death Knight is right there at the front door. And then this black woman, or a very ashen skinned woman, like grayish charcoal with darker hair, kills him, fights him and kills him. But her hood was torn off and it looks like Edelgard, but her skin is black as a cell phone when the power's turned off. So she explains they experimented on me with regeneration and healing abilities, and no one knew the extent of them. So when they burned her body in the funeral pyre with her head and then buried her, she regenerated, but she doesn't know if it's complete or not because her skin is not white anymore, and her hair isn't that weird color. Her hair is now, we'll just say, a dark blue. Because I'm tired of everybody having platinum white hair when they do some superpower shit. Except Goku. And Dimitri's there and he tries to kill her. But Dimitri gets stopped and knocked unconscious because it's Dimitri. And it is agreed that she can come because she knows how to get in and out there without much detection. However, no one trusts her. And she said it's okay. She asked him not to call her Edelgard anymore. So they just decide to call her Black Eagle. And she agrees to that name. She gets in there. She can disable the golems, aka the robots. She knows how to open the doors to that fake Tomas guy. And you eventually kill him. But of course, everything happens the same way. He tries to launch a giant nuke missile because he wants to say, if I'm going to die, we all going to die. Nemesis for life, bitch. Yada, yada. Nemesis is revived and, all that stuff happens. Rhea turns to a